Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by the two best in the industry at covering news, injury, and information to help you win your DFS contest, win your prop bets, so on and so forth. Joined by Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy, Mike Gallagher from Established Run. Justin, a little bit of news there. Had us a little delayed. How are you on this fine Friday?
Great. Wouldn't be a Friday without some last minute news dropping, and a little uncharacteristic because we usually don't get Denver news until later in the day. So I was actually talking to my guys saying, probably not going to get Denver until after lock. And that's obviously a huge piece of news, but, excited to break it down as usual.
Yeah. Jokic ruled out. We'll talk more about it. Gallagher, you're donning the Steph jersey tonight.
Yep.
How are you?
Matchups cover, boy. Steph Curry. We got a double dip to start the day on Curry overs. Very excited for Steph. Against, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I love the matchup for him. And yeah, Woj dropping that bomb to be like a negative on the ESPN game. That was kind of odd. I think that's kind of not being a company man. Just keep that in the back pocket. But hey, we certainly appreciate it.
You got to withhold it to keep the ratings high.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now people that were excited to see Jokic on national TV are going to start making plans for
100%. It's not that hard. Woj get it. Company first, man.
People are going to tune into Ship Chasing live at 9:15 p.m. Eastern time tonight with myself and Mike Leone joining Peter Overzet.
And DeAndre Jordan. Love to see some DeAndre Jordan.
All right, let's start there. Let's start with the Jokic stuff. I was not surprised here at all. I don't know how you guys were, but anytime he rarely gets listed on the injury report at all, and the listing was injury management. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, here we go. Justin, what's your read on how they go about replacing Jokic? We did have a few games earlier in the season without Nikola Jokic due to, I believe it was health and safety protocols at the time that he missed a couple of games for. They've shifted the rotation a little bit since. It's been more Zeke Naji than DeAndre Jordan. At that point, DeAndre Jordan was kind of the full backup center. But what are your expectations tonight against the Clippers?
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre started all three games, and his minutes were pretty healthy in those starts. 27 minutes a game. He gets a revenge spot here against the Clippers. So he, obviously really good value play. Jamal Murray fully expected to go with that probable tag, so he benefits as well. Michael Porter Jr. is actually pretty disappointing in those three games without Jokic. Just a 22% usage rate, which is on par with Bruce Brown. Only was averaging 17 Fanduel points per game as well. He was really disappointing. So I would look towards Jamal. I will also mention that 3-game sample is a little skewed if you just look at it at face value because Jamal only played one of those 3 games. So Bones Highland's numbers look a lot better in that sample than it should be because Jamal missed 2 of them. So I think Jamal is the clear winner here, and DeAndre should be in for a very solid role in the spot against his former team.
You think DeAndre slides in the starting lineup? They go away from the Zeke, and leave Zeke in the backup role.
Yep. I feel really confident about that.
Yeah,
I agree. There was a comment from Malone about a week and a half ago saying he rewarded him for staying out of the rotation. It feels like hey, I'll reward you play against your old team. And then just to add to some context on this out tag, they just come off a homestand. They won every game and then they go back home again. I just don't think they want to sit him at home. It's not a back-to-back. So that was the only weird part, but ESPN peeps are probably upset about this. But so the DeAndre stuff, I'm pretty confident he starts, but I'm not confident on his minutes. The Clippers are playing so small. They had this little small unit of Terrence Mann, Norm, Batum, Morris, and Rocco. And we're gonna see a lot of Rocco. Ty Lue talked about that a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lean more into a switch-heavier scheme with Zeke Naji, who's really good, and he's got size and a little bit of foot quickness to guard Kawhi, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But I feel pretty good he's going to start. But I don't know if he's got the minute ceiling in this particular spot with the way the Clippers are going to play.
Where would you guys put his minutes at initially right now? I know it just broke, but
we've got our team map, but the two of us haven't looked at it.
I would say 23. I think it's pretty good, but not too much. I'd say 23.
I was probably my first instinct was 22, so we're pretty aligned.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there, Justin?
I was going to put it closer to 24, 25. But I need
my concern is certainly that I think we should be baking in Obviously, who knows how Denver will respond to things. But I feel like we should be baking in at least 4 to 8 minutes of smaller ball where like Denver could play like Aaron Gordon at the center spot, essentially. It'll be interesting to see. But I'm pretty confident Ty Lue's going to try that stuff. It's just whether Denver will adapt to it or not. Denver generally has liked to stay big, but they've had freaking Jokic. So, like, of course you like to stay big.
Yeah. I mean, my counter is probably, Zubac is going to play a good amount. We saw him get in foul trouble last game against the Mavs, which really limited his minutes. But before that, non-blowouts, he's been playing 30 plus. So there are enough Zubac minutes in there, even with the Clippers going small, that you can put DeAndre on the floor, kind of match their minutes and go big versus big, where DeAndre is just getting exposed with Rocco and these smaller lineups on the floor.
Okay. Let's stay with the out tags. Kevin Porter Jr., a new out, got injured during the game against Sacramento. We actually saw Kenyon Martin Jr. be the primary beneficiary that night. We have a small sample of games that Kevin Porter Jr. has missed to this point in the season. And a lot of the on-off data is kind of interesting, but also perhaps misleading. It's something that we talked a lot about on our projections team about how to deal with, because the games that he missed, they didn't have Jayshawn Tate. So that's like another ball handler that they could throw into the mix. But Eric Gordon's been the guy who's benefited a ton, both on usage and assist rate and minutes, like everything across the board whenever Kevin Porter Jr. has been off the floor. Justin, what's your read on how the absence of Kevin Porter Jr. impacts things for Houston tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we should see KJ Martin get the start again. And like you said, man, like every single metric is Eric Gordon, like biggest usage rate differential, plus 9%. He has a 26% usage rate with KPJ off the court this season. I would say, just given this matchup as well, the biggest winner here is probably Jalen Green. His role is going to be pretty massive in this spot. And, the Kings are pretty good in terms of limiting perimeter stuff. So I would prefer to go to Jalen Green over Eric Gordon, even though the metrics, if you run them on the on-off stuff, Eric Gordon is clearly the biggest winner there. But we saw Şengün really shine, and we love targeting bigs against this front court too. So those two are the standouts for me, Jalen Green and Şengün.
Yeah, to add to the Jalen Green, he had 56 front court touches. That's 34 average on the year. That's more than Jokic gets per game.
Yeah.
So he was getting an absurd amount of touches. Season high 25 field goal attempts. He's going to get the De'Aaron Fox matchup as well, who I like to attack. So, really huge spot for Jalen Green on top of what you said. Yeah, Eric Gordon, he's going to get a little bit of ball handling. He's had a nice potential assist bump. We saw him have that like second unit point guard role before they started staggering. So he's going to pick up some good ball handling. We actually hammered him. Hit him with a double over. So we've had two double dips this morning. Very opposite side of the spectrum with Stephen Curry and Eric Gordon. But with you. And then, man, I think they scouted the Kings, because KJ Martin read the scouting report. He was going to the basket all day against the rim funnel, and he looked awesome. Just a huge game. Shout out to Dink. He played him. I would expect KJ Martin to pick up a little bit more. Everyone else kind of benefits a little bit. We'll see if there's Garrison Matthews. We'll see if Jayshawn Tate's minutes come up. They've been really capped, but I could see him maybe getting into the low 20s here, just with replacing KPJ was playing like upper 30s. So it's a pretty big hole to fill. Yeah,
that's the biggest question mark for me, is just how much is, because Tate is a guy who can play make. He's a guy who can absorb rates kind of all across the board. Always a little bit uncomfortable with double bets on overs. We've done 2 of them this morning, and Eric Gordon ones are especially challenging. But man, the usage rate differentials with him without KPJ are just really wide, and it's held up in every sample. So I just was like, okay, fine, we'll go with it. On to more doubtful out tags. DeMar DeRozan still doubtful. Zach LaVine listed as probable. He referred to it as normal maintenance stuff that he's dealing with. We saw last game huge usage rates for LaVine in the absence of DeMar DeRozan. Some questionable shot making decisions, especially at the end of games for Zach LaVine. What's the expectation here tonight, Gallagher, in terms of do you think we see a lot of what we saw last time against Washington in terms of how the Bulls rotation looks without DeMar DeRozan?
Yeah, pretty similar, if not more. Caruso, they didn't need the on-ball defense as much. Picked up some of the Kuzma stuff, but they're going to need it today with SG on the other side. So I would expect Caruso to get maybe even a little bit more, just because they're going to need him so much. I don't think they really trusted Io that much to deal with his physicality. Maybe they do, but I don't think so. So I think Caruso could play quite a bit. And then, Levine, man, just massive role. He had a season high in isolation plays. He like doubled his previous season high. So I'd expect him to pick up a pretty good minute. He had 16 drives. That's up 6 from his average. I mentioned 12 isolation possessions. 12 isolation possessions up from 5 season high. So DeMarshall, he'll be in the torture chamber, which has been, as a fan and I were talking about yesterday, Dort's been hit up.
Yeah, he's
Jimmy
really
Butler,
spoiled, man. That isn't
Jimmy
a matchup like I'm staying away from necessarily. And Levine's a guy who can, when he has it going, he's pretty much matchup proof.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's so athletic, he goes downhill, and I'm not afraid of this matchup. The role for me outweighs any sort of concern about the Georgia chamber.
Yeah, 41 minutes. He's shooting the ball great right now. So I'm definitely comfortable. Against the defense, it's been pretty good. OKC gets a bad rap. They've been playing some pretty strong defense, but definitely Levine show. Pretty good Vooch spot as well against what looks like Jalen Williams, J. Will. 52 front court touches in the last game. Didn't shoot it. Didn't have a popping line, but I would expect Vooch to have a pretty good game here. So playing a bull, I think makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, he was pretty passive last game. I'd also say, like, I game stacked this game in the Millie Maker, so I was paying attention to it pretty closely. He was a little bit passive, but really, like, everybody else was super aggressive. They were just like getting up shots early in the shot clock, like a lot of kind of bad shots, honestly. And he wasn't able to get as much in rhythm. I think that'll change tonight. You did note, Gallagher, your expectations last time that Caruso would come off the bench because of the matchup. They would use Kobe White shooting. We did see Kobe White close in this spot. I think it's a combination of the matchup and also that they were trailing after that disastrous third quarter. They were playing from behind. And I think you'll see stuff that's prone to that, where if they're playing from behind, you might see more Kobe White. If they're playing from ahead, you might see more Alex Caruso or Ayo Dosunmu, just as they try to like kind of platoon this rotation without DeMar DeRozan. Is that your guys' expectation?
Just to add really quick, he subbed for Ayo late. Yep. So we still hit the Caruso under, but I think you pretty much nailed it. I don't know if you have anything to add, fan.
No, I mean, Dink talked about this. Like, Vooch relatively disappointing. I thought he'd be really good in that spot against Josh Gibson. 15 and 10, and very pedestrian in that spot. But Levine 37% usage last game, and the minutes are really starting to get up there, 41 and 42 in the last 2 games. So.
And Vooch 39. Part of the Vooch thing was Drummond picked up 4 fouls in like 3 minutes. But they do not trust anybody else on the roster really without DeMar to generate offense. So they had one stretch in the second quarter, I think it was, where they played both of them off the floor. And then in the third quarter, they got rid of that. They went back to staggering Vooch and Levine a little bit more. So you see really high minutes for both those guys.
Anytime you can get a player that can, as a threat to be in that 40-40 club, 40 minutes, 40% usage, you are all the way in. And, Levine's minutes have been there, and the usage 37% in 2 of the last 3 games. So incredible role for him.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the Pacers. The chat is clamoring to talk about Andrew Nembhard. Tyrese Halliburton going to be out a few weeks. They have questionable tags on O'Shea Brissett, Aaron Nesmith, and Miles Turner tonight. Justin, I'll let you start with the questionable tags, and then I'll ask Gallagher about the role without Halliburton. So questionable tags on O'Shea, Nesmith, Miles Turner tonight. What are your expectations for those guys?
Yeah, so we don't have that much about Miles Turner. So Carlisle said after the game he had a back spasm just before. He was scratched like 30 minutes within 30 minutes before the game, and we didn't hear anything more in terms of detail post game. So I don't know if it was precautionary or not, but I don't really have a strong read. I think he's true 50-50 in this one. Wouldn't surprise me to see a game time decision on Miles. Feel decent about Nesmith coming back in this one. This is just the most interesting, really, situation for me on the slate to dissect, because there's so many directions and so many combinations that we need to get into. And we can just even start with who starts for Tyrese Halliburton, right? And Gallagher and I were talking about this a little last night, just like who we thought would go. So my ranking for potential starters, this is assuming Nembhard, Hield, Nesmith, and Miles Turner are the other starters. So that 5th starter, I would rank them number 1, Jalen Smith, number 2, Benny Mathurin, and Gallagher and I will differ on number 3. I think number 3 for me is O'Shea Brissett. Number 3 for Gallagher is Chris Duarte. So I think I feel good about Jalen Smith getting the start again tonight because he got the start last game, and they're playing, in a bigger matchup tonight too. So it makes sense for them to go double big against the Hawks and John Collins and Onyeka Okongwu. So we're expecting it to be Nembhard, Heel, Smith, and Miles Turner. And then if Miles Turner ends up missing, I'm not sure where they go because they went to James Johnson last game, but he played.
O'Shea was out though.
Yeah. But I don't know. You think they would start Brissett if Miles Turner's out?
So I think
they would have started Brissett if he was there.
Yeah, I think if their intention is to start big, I think that's absolutely the way that they would be most likely to go. The people are going to ask, not on either of your lists, is TJ McConnell.
Yeah. I think. Well, the beat writers are pretty consistent. They think he's going to remain in that second team as a second team point guard. And we saw speculation already. I've seen a couple articles from Dustin Dobrak that covers the team. Scott Agnes put out a tweet too about who he thinks will start, and he has an article on that. Neither of those guys have mentioned TJ McConnell as one of the primary options. It's been Benny Mathurin, it's been Jalen Smith, it's been O'Shea Brissett, and Chris Duarte. Those are the 4 that I've seen mentioned. McConnell has always been, in those beat writers' minds, just set as the second team point guard.
Yeah.
Do you guys expect McConnell's role to increase in minutes, even off the bench? Do you he's been stuck, most of the season around this 16 to 18 mark. The minutes have dipped a little bit of late. What are the minutes expectations that you guys have for TJ McConnell tonight? Because he can put up fantasy points in a hurry.
I haven't thought it through yet, but I'd probably put him in the mid-20s. I think they're going to overlap him a pretty good bit, and obviously this is depending on if guys are hurt.
There's a lot of Q tags. So
yeah. I think that's a fair range.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair range too. But it definitely depends on because they're playing Trey and DeJounte. Those are 2 point guards pretty much, right? So you can go McConnell, Nembhard, right? If you want, you can. Yeah, there's going to be overlap. So I think his role is going to be pretty healthy, even if he comes off the bench.
Yeah, and I just think that I mean Halliburton's not day to day. He's going to miss approximately 2 weeks, probably more from 2 injuries.
Probably more.
So I think you just lean into a lineup. Don't play the matchups. He doesn't play the matchups. We've seen him play Aaron Nesmith when they play against smaller guys all the time. So that's kind of why I think it's Benny Mathurin. I think you want a little more rim pressure. That's kind of why I'm thinking as well. Because, if you put Nembhard out there with those other guys, he has to do everything, which leads me to him doing everything. So we saw those 2 games against Golden State and Portland, and these stats are absurd. So in those 2 games, he had 10.4 minutes of touch time. Luka leads the league at 9.8, so league leading pace. He had 16 drives. That would rank in the top 10. He had almost 14 pick and roll possessions per game. That ties Ja for the league lead. And then potential assists, 26.5 potential assists in those 2 games. Beats Halliburton's 19th play. The role's absurd. So it could be a really big Nembhard day. He is just, I expect him to completely crush here in a matchup that I kind of like. And also to add to that, I mentioned it was the Warriors and the Blazers. He guarded Steph and Dame in those 2 games. Just my God, just an incredible role coming his way on both ends.
So one thing I did want to talk through there is those 2 games. I believe both. I know at least one, but I believe both. TJ McConnell was not available.
One, I think.
Okay.
Maybe one. Or maybe it was maybe the Benjamin method. I think it was neither.
I think it was both that he was unavailable. And the reason I bring it up is just because if you look at the on-off splits between Nembhard this season with Tyrese Halliburton off, obviously it's a big improvement for him, but it's not that. It's not what we saw those 2 games, which was really an outrageous role, as you allude to. So when going through kind of our rate adjustments and expectations, I kind of middled between what we saw and what we've seen. So it's still an aggressive projection, but it's not that. And so I wanted your guys' thoughts on, the role in how it would potentially change with some of that overlap with TJ McConnell. Any notes that you have there, Gallagher? I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it'll change a little bit, but I still expect him to carry most of the offense when he's out there, and they're probably going to overlap 7, 8, 9 minutes. I'd say not too much. So I think that 7, 8, 9 he'll probably be playing off ball a little bit. Obviously, he's pretty accustomed to that role now with Halliburton out there. So yeah, I mean, if I wasn't clear, like, we're not expecting that at all, but he's capable of it. If maybe they don't overlap TJ. I think that they certainly do, especially if and I'll add to that too. The more Q tags that are out, the more that'll be affecting him ball handling wise. So it's kind of weird. It's a little push and pull where his minute ceiling could be a little bit higher, but the role could shrink because he's overlapping with more ball handlers.
Yeah, because his usage in those 2 games was outrageous, but in the sample of the season, 290 minutes without Halliburton on the floor, it's just 16%. It's not this really big jump. And then the ball handling in those 290 minutes, it's just a 27% assist rate. It's not the 37% assist rate, 40% assist rate we saw in those games. And so having a hard time like figuring out where exactly to put it. Justin, do you have any thoughts on how much TJ McConnell impacts his role?
So McConnell missed both those games that Halliburton was out for, that Nembhard started at. And you run the query when McConnell's on the floor. Nembhard is one of the guys who takes the biggest usage rate hit in the differential. So that role is just outrageous. It's like league leading touches and league leading possession time. So I don't think that's really anywhere near the realm of reality, that he just like goes 100 plus touches a game, gets like 10 minutes of touch time. But so I'm with Dink. I'm kind of somewhere in between, because I do expect McConnell to play a decent amount and there to be some overlap. And we are expecting who are we expecting Nembhard to get? Are we expecting him to get Trey or DeJounte?
100% Trey.
Yeah. So you feel, I will say this, you guys feel that way by feeling very confident about TJ McConnell not starting. I do think if TJ McConnell was starting, TJ McConnell would get Trey, Nembhard would get DeJounte in that scenario. I think any other scenario, I agree with you that Nembhard for sure gets Trey. But I think there is that one scenario, could screw up a lot of stuff for Nembhard, because as you alluded to, the rates come down quite a bit on the floor time shared with McConnell. So it's something that we're probably going to be adjusting the projection more than just the minutes based on the starting lineup, which is not something that we're always doing. It's usually like more fluid, but I think it's a big point to note for the slate and for understanding Nembhard's role.
Yeah. Okay. To wrap it up with McConnell, like I said, what we're kind of getting at is mostly based on the intel that we're getting from the beat writers that cover the team. And they were pretty consistent on who they think is the most likely candidate. It's been, like I said, between Jalen Smith, Benny Mathurin, and then one of them threw Chris Duarte in there, one of them threw O'Shea Brissett in there. So we haven't heard McConnell in that mix from the beat writers just yet.
Yeah, and that makes the reason why
the most sense to me as well.
The reason why I think they're leaning, I listen to all Carlisle's pressers. Every time he talks about McConnell, he talks about him being a great spark plug off the bench. I'm pretty sure that's their reasoning. That's my reasoning as well. So and then your rotation's a mess. Like if you do that, you're forcing yourself to play so much McConnell and Nembhard, which would be great. So if McConnell is starting, that's an indication that they're going to play a ton. They don't have other ball handlers on this team. Yeah. So if we're wrong, then they both would be really good plays.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to the questionable tags on this slate. There's still plenty of those to get through as well. On the Detroit side, they'll be without Corey Joseph, without Jalen Duren. Isaiah Stewart is questionable here. We've seen when they are without Stewart and Jalen Duren, we've seen Nerlens Noel draw 2 starts now, do Nerlens Noel things, which is, it looks like a really quiet line until you scroll all the way to that steals blocks line, and then things start to look tasty again. What are your thoughts on Isaiah Stewart's availability tonight, Justin?
Really iffy. So Casey said he doesn't think he'll be out that long, but he also added that he's going to have tests done on his shoulder this week as well, which isn't super encouraging for me. And we haven't heard the results of those tests yet. So it makes me think that he's a decent chance of missing again, which would mean another start for Nerlens Noel. And the minutes are a little tough to peg because, those 2 starts were both blowouts. They lost by 31 against the Sixers and they won by 17 against the Wolves. And we just maybe look at the first half minutes just to get some sort of indication. He played 16 minutes in that game in that first half against Embiid, and then he played 11.5 in that second game's first half against the Wolves. So a reasonable expectation, somewhere like mid-20s, I think is reasonable, maybe higher 20s for Nerlens in a full start when it's not a blowout. But yeah, we saw on Sunday against we saw basically a 48-minute split at center on Sunday when Stewart was in and Duren was out. So when Stewart 35 and Nerlens 13. So yeah, I don't have too much to add on Stewart. He was straight listed out the last 2 games, and he's listed questionable now, which is an improvement. But like I said, he still has to undergo testing, and we don't know what the results of what those tests are just yet.
Yeah, and it was something he was playing through. This team's really bad, so I would lean out, like barely. We're going to project him in, but playing through a shoulder injury and then getting pop-up out and imaging, that's usually like a week, you would say. But yeah, I think maybe he comes back. I don't have a strong lean, as you were saying. But yeah, I think do you want to let me talk about Saddiq Bey really quick? Because there were some pretty eye-popping quotes from Dwayne Casey after the game, saying he wants him to shoot it 20 times per game, and he wants his catch and shoot numbers to be, quote, off the charts. We saw him play 38 minutes in the last game and just bomb away as a catch and shoot guy against a team that gives up a lot of 3-pointers. Yep. So pretty good Saddiq, especially if Stewart's out. We saw he was like subbing in back in as like the center 2 spot earlier against the Sixers, so they could play him so many minutes here. So if it's kind of odd if Stewart's out, there's obviously the Noel stuff, but that's going to help Saddiq Bey a lot. That's going to help some of the other guys a lot against a team that's pretty good at stopping pick and roll ball handlers as well. And they're going to probably put Najee and or Herb on Bojan. I could see Saddiq Bey kind of popping off today.
Yeah, so, and the Wolves gave up the 3rd most wide open threes per game, and we saw with Saddiq Bey, the Pelicans give up the 6th most wide open threes per game. So another good matchup for Saddiq Bey to exploit from the perimeter.
The thing I wanted to highlight here is when Justin was talking about those Nerlens Noel minutes. So I've been watching these Detroit games because I've been investing in their players, and the broadcast was very clear on what the intention with Noel was in that game against Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. They were matching his minutes with Joel Embiid, and you saw it with substitution patterns. And then the game got out of hand in the 3rd period, and Joel stayed in when Noel left. And then you look at the set. So my thought process on this is that first game, that 16 or whatever, total outlier, because that's only going to be in a competitive game with a guy that they think that they need to match his minutes with. Now, the good news is you can't really play Hamidou Diallo against Jonas Valanciunas. Mm-hmm. So Jonas Valanciunas is going to qualify as this type of thing. And we saw in that game, Gallagher and I have commented on this on our DFS shows. In that game, Nerlens Noel was very passive defensively to the point where he was just like guarding with his hands up to try to not draw fouls against Embiid. And because I think he was instructed like, hey, you can't foul. We can't lose you here. I think the same instructions will be tonight against Joe Val, another guy who kind of punishes you in the paint. So it might be a lot of soft looks for Joe Val. And I think on the minutes expectation, I think there's a chance that it could get upper 20s if the game is competitive and Joe Val's minutes get to that point. But I think there's also a decent likelihood with, how Joe Val's minutes go with Larry Nance and stuff, that they get cut down. Nerlens Noel ends up at like 22, 23, 24. But I think in games that they are not threatened by the post presence, they really don't want Nerlens playing more than like 24, 25.
Yeah, I'll say this, though. Without Zion, that offense is going to funnel through CJ and Valanciunas. Mm-hmm. So I think it puts a little bit more emphasis on Valanciunas offensively, which puts a little bit more emphasis on having Nerlens out there. That would be my counter. My main concern here is mostly blowout risk because they've just been in 2 blowouts. But like in this matchup where Valanciunas is like the second focal point of this offense, they will need Nerlens' size out there if Stewart's out.
Yeah, let me hit some CJ McCollum stats just while we're here. He's run 14 pick and roll handler possessions per game in the last 2. That's almost double where he was at. They are pick and rolling him to death. This is one of the worst pick and roll defenses in the NBA. CJ is option A in my opinion. The usage has been crazy strong. So I don't think Herb is going to affect his stats. Just wanted to sneak that in there.
Two listed out news that we have just recently. Nikola Jokic officially listed out, and then for our NFL viewers out there, Lamar Jackson officially listed out for the Ravens finally.
Yeah. Big Mike out as well for the Chargers.
Brandon Staley, complete donkey. Like, what are we doing there? Like, you have the difference between NBA and NFL is astounding, because in NBA and that last week or so, you have teams just resting 6 to 8 players a game just for like 2% equity at the number 1 pick, right? And then NFL, you have coaches playing guys deep into the third quarter in a meaningless game when their playoff seeding is clinched. Like, it's wild to me.
The best is the quotes yesterday are just like so incredibly like not reading the room at all, Brandon, when he's like, the things that matter, you didn't practice, the things that matter most are rest, not reps at this time of the year. And it's like, oh really? Is that the thing you think now? Because it would have been interesting if you had prioritized that last weekend.
And it's Mike Williams too. This guy has a history of being hurt. Like,
insane.
It's wild to me. It's wild.
I'm still tilting over the Jets going 0-13, winning 2 games late, and then getting stuck with stupid Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence. You donkeys.
Yeah.
But anyways,
look, the Jets can turn anyone into Zach Wilson. Don't belabor the point. Trevor Lawrence could have been Zach Wilson if it was a different scenario. Herb Jones, questionable for New Orleans on the other side of this. What are your guys' expectations there for Herb? Gallagher, I'll start with you if you have any read on Herb.
Yeah, just a back contusion, so it's not like a back spasm thing or anything like that. So I think he's got a pretty good chance to play. Got upgraded to questionable from the doubtful tag, so likely back, I would say. If not, then going to be Dyson Daniels. Pretty straightforward. We saw him get pretty long leash in the first half in a matchup where they really needed him against the Boston Wings, so he would probably benefit. But I don't know if I missed anything on Herb that you picked up, Van. But I think he's got a pretty good chance to come back.
Yeah, I know. Update on him. Obviously, had that nasty fall on Monday. Didn't return. Missed the game on Wednesday. So we'll see. I mean, he generally likes to play through stuff, but at the same time, they have depth. This team does to make up for his absence. And you mentioned Dyson Daniels. Played like 25 and a half minutes. I'll also note that we saw ceilings on the minutes of Trey Murphy and Najee Marshall as well in that last game without Herb Jones. Trey Murphy got all the way up to 34 and Najee got all the way up to 37. So if this one stays competitive, which is obviously, we just talked about this on the other side of the ball with Isaiah Stewart, those guys have shown pretty big minutes, ceilings potentially just for them to get up there mid.
And also another bit of a squeaky wheel too. Willie Green says he wants Trey Murphy to really start hunting his shots too. So if you like playing the coach speak quotes, that could be for you. They're going to score a ton today. So maybe they. Yeah, go ahead.
Whose guy is that again?
Yes, yep. No, cheers. He's been a little disappointing though, honestly.
I know.
I thought he'd be. I thought he was going to really pop off here.
Some people warned about.
He did
the 8 points per game. It's 12, so he's been way better. He's also shot way better this year than last year, shooting 48% from the field compared to 39% last year. But not a lot of other stats. I will at the end of the season. I will compare Trey Murphy's roto value to Justin Holiday's best season, and we can see who wins out on that. Because I don't think they're going to be very different.
Yep.
All right, on to Washington. Gafford, Kristaps Porzingis, Monty Morris, all listed on the injury report today. We saw Gafford and Porzingis miss last game. They still got the win. Bradley Beal, it sounded like there was momentum that he might be available today, but listed out right away. So, still waiting on Beal. Justin, what's your read on these questionable tags for the Wizards tonight?
Yeah, so Beal, I'd expect him to be out like another week. He's just like ramping up full activity, and we were like with the phrasing, we were almost going to go remains without timetable. I think he's still a bit away from returning, and he's had that re-aggravation so many times. They just want to be super sure that he's healthy before they rush him back. So I don't think he's I think he's going to miss another couple games.
Okay.
But with KP and Gafford, they were ruled out fairly early on Wednesday at like 5 Eastern, and they didn't even get the game time decision tag like Kispert. Like Kispert at least made it to game time and he played. But I think Kristaps has a good chance of being back. It's a contusion. He's playing the Knicks today, so a little bit extra incentive for him to go out there. Gafford, we saw he had a partial practice on Tuesday. Haven't really heard much else about his status and his progress. So I would put KP as the more likely of the two to play than Gafford, but I still think Gafford has a decent chance. He sprained that ankle on Monday, contesting a shot, partial practice on Tuesday. He's like close-ish. So probably closer to 50-50 though from Gafford. But We saw the guy, obviously we broke down the situation, but the guy who really unexpectedly emerged was Anthony Gill. Scored a career high 18 points, won the defensive player of the game belt, and really cut down on Rui Hachimura, who only played 20 minutes, who we thought really benefited in the spot without KP and Bradley Beal. And Taj played well defensively against Vooch. So yeah, I think I don't think we'll see a repeat of the situation where Gil's going to earn that much time and carve away that much time from Rui. But that was a bit of a bit annoying to see that kind of come out of the blue and cut Rui down that much. But really good Kyle Kuzma spot, especially if Kristaps is out. We know this Knicks team loves to give up a lot of wide open threes, and that is right up in Kuzma's wheelhouse as a jump shooter. And I don't have too much on Monte Morris here, but it would be DeLon Wright, I would assume, moving the starting lineup, and then we see more Jordan Goodwin, Will Barton, and I would expect more minutes from Kispert as well, more than the 25 that he saw on Wednesday.
Yeah, Monty closed in the last games, and he's listed with soreness on the hamstring. So hamstrings are always alarming, like the Beal thing. I mean, he's just started ramping up from a hamstring. This is his other hamstring, not the one he like pulled multiple times, but it's a hamstring. Like you don't want to play on two bum hamstrings, so it'll be ramping up for sure. But yeah, this is like just to take it another way on top of, and also more coach speak buzz on Kuzma. They want to put the ball in his hands more, especially if KP's out. And I think Gafford's a little unlikely. He's had ankle sprains before, and he had to get imaging on this thing. It seems like he's got an okay chance to miss. KP's got to play, right? Like rim contusion, you're going to miss 2 games. We saw TJ Warren get like decked and like couldn't breathe. He's out there the next game. But yeah, like kind of taking another way. If I'm a Jalen Brunson fan, I'm wanting Monte Morris to play really badly because I don't want to have DeLon Wright starting on the other side of this thing. So just something to think through when we get that news later today.
And if Porzingis and Gafford are unavailable, we were just talking about the MILF Hunter and Zach Wilson, but the Reeb Hunter and Denny Avdia. I've never seen a man attack the glass for uncontested rebounds since, I mean, it was a Westbrookian performance from Denny Avdia last game. So look for another big one if those guys are shorthanded tonight.
You love to see those minutes too from Denny up to 35. That's notable as well.
Yeah.
All right, Denny Rodman.
Let's move over to the Wolves. Anthony Edwards, Kyle Anderson, Taurean Prince, all listed questionable. Any notes there, Gallagher, from your Wolves?
Yeah, there was a crazy interview from Anthony Edwards that I'm going to pull up the quotes on from Chris Hine, who's one of their beat reporters. So just some of the snippets. He said that nobody understands what he's going through. He said he'll figure it out. He said he'll kind of play no matter what, and he'll figure it out. Like all these quotes that were, he'll quote, tell them what they want to hear about him playing. It was very odd to see him say that. He's playing through injury. We talked about this on the last show, that like his rebounding numbers are plummeting after they were really spiking. So he's clearly playing through injury. So this is going to affect him, I think, whether it's I think it's going to affect his rebounding stuff, but his minutes should be pretty good. You've got major risk of aggravation and sitting out. We saw him get ruled out mid-game and then come back in. Just a very baffling situation on a team that has all the bad vibes. So he said he's going to play. Take him at his word, but just know that you're probably not getting anywhere close to peak Anthony Edwards in this spot against pretty good matchup. He'll probably pick up Mikal, but we expect him to be out there.
Yeah, I mean the quotes from Finch were a little alarming afterwards too. He was like basically saying if he's out there, I'm expecting him to go pretty much play full minutes. I'm like, dude, he's clearly laboring out there. Not only is he not looking 100%, he's like grabbing at his hip like pretty regularly. He was doing that that Sunday game too against Houston, and we've seen like against Houston that matchup where it's pristine most of the time. He struggled, shot 6 for 19 from the field, so he's clearly playing through this issue and he should be sitting out, honestly, in my opinion. But I will also note this is the first leg of a back-to-back too. So, and I also note that they recalled Wendell Moore from the G League on Thursday, which some beat writers were speculating that maybe that's Anthony Edwards' insurance if he has to miss time. So I think Slow-Mo, another guy that's questionable here, late addition to the injury report on Wednesday with the dreaded illness. As not a surprise that he was ruled out. At least he was a game time decision, so I think he has a decent shot of playing today. And then Taurean Prince, we saw him return, but he sprained that ankle pretty bad on Wednesday. He limped to the locker room, and that's his surgically repaired ankle as well. So want to note that too. So that like Kyle Anderson, Taurean Prince are massive parts of this front court right now, since they're already down Karl-Anthony Towns. So that'd be a huge depth blow if one or both those guys have to miss.
Yeah, I mean, if they're missing all those guys, man, they're going to have to play one or more for sure. So that's definitely like oh my God, we'll call them up just in case. But I'm with you. I was really surprised Prince returned with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that ankle is in shambles. So maybe if called up on him, definitely chance he misses.
Yeah. On the other side of that,
we'll see. Just the last time, we'll see Jalen Noel at the start for Ant if he's out, and then we'll see Rivers for Slow-Mo if he's out again.
Okay. On the other side of that, DeAndre Ayton questionable there without Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Landry Shamet, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, keep going on and on down the list. Very short-handed. Suns team, your expectation, Justin, on DeAndre Ayton's availability tonight?
Yeah, he's on track to play. The reporting from Dwayne Rankin is that he's set to go, so it looks pretty promising. And we've got news on DeAndre Ayton early, consistently. He was ruled out early, both those last games, 2 Eastern, the first game, 3:15 Eastern, the second game. And we got a report on him this morning. So would fully expect Ayton to go just based off that reporting, but don't really want any part of him today. This aggravation risk, he continues to have this issue with his ankle, so don't want a part of that. And then he gets his matchup against Rudy Gobert as well. So don't want a part of that really as well. But we really seen like Dwayne Washington, man, his usage these last 2 games, even though his minutes have like mid-20s, he's like 31% usage. Like he is trucking it when he's out there.
That's all season. All season, this guy has had the most aggressive usage rate. It's been probably the biggest jump I've had to deal with from a rates expectations perspective. And at first I was just like slowly inching along. And then after like the 7th straight game of like 30 plus, I was like, all right, this is what this is now. But yeah, he's held up most of the year with his efficiency, but would not be surprised to see all of this stuff kind of crater, kind of like it did last game at some point.
I think I was trying to figure out who McDaniels is going to guard, and I think it makes sense to put him on Washington. Washington's been really inefficient, but I think just disrupting your point guard, I think makes more sense than putting him on someone who's playing off ball. I think it just helps your defense a little bit more. And yeah, just to hammer home the Ayton point, talked about this on the last show. 3rd time he's rolled that ankle, the left ankle. Yep. Rolled it in March 22, February 2020 in his rookie season. This left ankle is a major problem. It was a pretty minor tweak, so I would expect a little bit of a cap, but I've been wrong. I mean, we see, Booker to a fault play too many minutes. Chris Paul play a lot of minutes when he returns, so maybe he plays a lot. I'm still staying away though.
All right, let's move on to Jalen Suggs, questionable tag for Orlando. We saw Suggs' minutes get cut down quite a bit last game. I assume now with the questionable tag that was due to injury. I, at the time, wasn't sure if that was just due to like normal rotations because they're getting very deep on Orlando. What's the read here, Justin?
Yeah, don't have too much. Gallagher, did you see him on Suggs? I didn't see anything.
No, he subbed out. He subbed out at a timeout. It was normal. They just gave up a couple points. He subbed out, and we had an under on him that day. And I was like, all right, he's probably coming out here because the Blazers want a little bit of a run. So I don't know. I didn't see anything. So I think he's got a chance to play, but he's been just so insignificant right now.
Yeah, even on Monday before that last game where he only played 11 minutes, he played 9 minutes in the first half. So his minutes are going to be in the teens. Likely just with everybody back, with Cole Anthony back too. So we saw, a bit of a minute ceiling for Markelle Fultz on Tuesday. Got up to 37. Then Gary Harris got up to 30 as well. But yeah, if Suggs misses, it's going to be, a little bit higher projection for those guys in terms of minutes. And then Cole Anthony and Terrence Ross providing depth. Maybe Caleb Houston plays a little bit more as well. And then Terrence Ross, like I said, probably gets up from the 15 that he saw to high teens, low 20s.
Yeah, I mean, they're so deep. They, Caleb Houston only played 3 minutes in this game. They went kind of a nine-ish man, and Bol, who was cleared from health and safety protocols. We have seen guys come along slowly back from that, but he wasn't in the rotation as well. So they have lots of options to just string this out to a 10-man if they want to. They've been playing well on this road trip, 2-1 so far. We'll see if they can keep it going tonight against Utah. But Suggs, not a huge role these days. On the Utah side, Talen Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton, both listed questionable. Sexton's missed a few of the last games. Any read here, Justin, on Utah?
Yeah, Sexton said he'll play, so we fully expect him to go. Don't really have too much on THT. He was straight ruled out the last 2 games, questionable this time, so that's a little encouraging. But I think the biggest question here was if Malik Beasley or Vanderbilt gets the start at the 3. So we kind of know that, if with Olynyk out, it's going to be Kessler again at center, but we just got this random Beasley spot start over Vanderbilt last game. Beasley played 34 minutes and Vandy just played 17. So wondering, in this matchup where, they're facing, a little bit of size there with Franz Wagner, Boncaro at the 3-4, whether they go back to being big and going to Vanderbilt. I would lean that way. I was trying to look for any quotes from Hardy about his thought process behind it. I couldn't really find anything about why Beasley got that spot start, and he played a lot of minutes too comparatively to Vanderbilt. So I'm more guessing here that just in this match they go back to Vanderbilt, but I don't really have a ton of conviction there. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, so my thesis was they just want more shooting. So this, on top of the stuff you mentioned, which makes a ton of sense, put Vanderbilt on Bancaro makes all the sense in the world. And that was my initial thought, and I was kind of piecing it together. I think they just really want to lean to 3-point shooting, and you're going against a team that allows the second highest 3-point frequency. So I think you just lean offense here, just let Beasley bomb away. So I was leaning Beasley a little bit. It's just so odd to you're gonna play him one time when you're gonna have Olynyk out for a while. Maybe this is gonna change if Colin Sexton come in, rework the rotation that way. Maybe that was why, but that's kind of the only thing that was different. So I was leaning Beasley. I'm not confident at all. But if Beasley's starting, he's in a really good spot to just bomb away against his team.
As much as I love #Our Magic, I would not be prioritizing defense against them. They struggle
100%.
They can create their own offensive inefficiencies. Just try to score against them as much as you can. Okay, let's move to Sacramento. Kevin Huerter, questionable, missed last game with that illness. We had talked about this. Gallagher and Justin, you both know this a bunch, that those midday illness tags are downgraded to Q seem to be more doubtfuls than questionables.
And what's the odds here? What would you if you get a midday Q tag?
Yeah,
how likely are you to sit 80%, 90%? The only guy I could think of off the top end was Tyus Jones.
Yeah, I looked at it briefly, just running our database. I need to go look at it again, but it's north of 90%.
Let's go.
The midday addition or midday downgrade on the injury report due to illness this season.
Nice. Tweet that. You got to get that tweet out. That'd be awesome.
No, we got to keep it, keep the goods for the people.
Okay.
Or yeah.
All right. So Huerter, expectations on if he'll be able to return tonight?
I mean, I think he's going to be back with that illness. I mean, it's generally just a one game thing, and then they're back that second game. So I would expect him to be back in the lineup tonight. Gallagher, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. The illness should be back, and cutting in a little bit of Keegan Murray. I love that chant in the Kings game. But yeah, we'll see Terrence Davis go back to the bench. Malik Monk's rotations got cut pretty short. Didn't really have it. And man, Trey Lyles just flame throwing in the fourth. He had I think 9 points in 3 minutes to shut the door on Houston. Got the defensive player of the game as well. It was an outstanding game from Trey Lyles.
I think one of the things that hurt Malik Monk there was the Kevin Porter Jr. injury, shifting KJ Martin kind of into the rotation, made them play a little bit bigger on the whole. I think that unlocked a little bit more playing time for Trey Lyles, and he took advantage of it. He was just playing really, really well. So yeah, rematch here. Hopefully another high-scoring game. Hopefully a little more competitive. This fourth quarter pushed the game out of hand. I was sweating some Fox, some Keegan, some Terrence Davis, some Monk, and just didn't get as much of it as I'd like.
Trey Lyles. Yeah. I rogued Trey Lyles rebound assist under, so I lost that, and he played so well that he took Fox off the court that I missed his over.
Man.
So he really got me pretty good.
We got a high look in this box. We're gonna highlight Sabonis' line too.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, he just keeps putting up these incredible stat lines. He's got to be like the surest bet for like 48 plus fantasy points a night, and the surest bet to like not clear 65. Like it's 48 to 64 every single night. Like, and it's just like every DFS show, I'm just like, okay, 10-5 Sabonis. He's going to be good. He's not going to win you anything. And I don't know what else to say after that. And every night, by the third quarter, I'm like, oh, he might do it. He might actually like crack that 65. And then I look and it's like, nope, he's still 59 or something like that.
Guess what his odds are for double-double on Caesars?
I'd guess like minus 800.
Fan, do you have a guess?
No, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, 904. Minus 904.
904?
Yeah.
Holy
He's just a board machine. Yeah. Lay that money, man. It's a lock. No.
Unbelievable.
I'm totally kidding. Yeah.
So I mean, this game went 250 last time, and it's not often I see a 238.5 total. I think it might be low. So this game is pristine.
So good. Fox Dime Fest. He had 90 potential assists in the last game. His potential assists have been ticking up. His minutes have been a little bit safer too. So I think Fox. I covered boyed him last time, and it was still pretty good. But I expect Fox to pop off again.
So does that change for you? Say KPJ's out and they enter KJ Martin in the starting line.
Little bit.
Yeah.
I mentioned that in matchup. It's not quite as good, but I still think he's going to pop off. I don't think anybody can stay in front from that team.
All right, let's move to the probables and returns. We'll get Trae Young back tonight after the very disappointing DeJounte Murray performance in the absence of Trae Young for a lot of people. Bogdanovic kind of picked up the role there. Any notes, Gallagher, with Trae Young's return tonight?
Just that it's odd he didn't get the probable tag. That was my only note. Should be fine. This is twice we've seen him get listed. We saw that funky story that got released about him and Nate McMillan, and he got listed out. Didn't get the probable tags. That's if you want to be devil's advocate. That struck me. And yeah, just DeJounte, man. I talk about this all the time, how many pick and roll possessions that the Bucks give up. Most in the NBA. He only ran 9 pick and roll possessions. Like, what are we doing here, man? This is a colossal letdown from DeJounte Murray. We had his under, so we'll take it. But just chalk, total bust fest.
Yeah. I was thankful for it.
You were just confused that he's not on the injury report at all. Is that what you're getting at with Trae?
I thought you get I'm just saying I thought you get a probable tag. Usually the guys returning from illness get the probable. That was just a little puzzling to me. But it's nothing. It's just me being, why would the Hawks do that kind of a thing.
And then before we get out of here, Clippers, no Paul George.
This is hilarious. Bet Rivers has been minus 16.
Hopefully that's not steam that you guys just unleashed here on the show.
Oh my God, we were totally kidding. Yeah.
The Clippers still no Paul George. The rotation, Reggie Jackson has been totally nuked. Any other notes here, Gallagher, you have for the people?
I talked about the small ball lineup, and Norm Powell is going to play more point guard. So Norm's been playing a lot of minutes. Kawhi's ball handling is really strong. He's almost at like 6 minutes of ball handling, so he's been picking up a lot of run. Terrence Mann, kind of the de facto point guard. So Kawhi's been playing a lot. I think the matchup's okay against Aaron Gordon. Not too worried about it. I don't think that Jokic alters that. So I think he's in a pretty good spot. Morris in an okay spot. We'll talk. We'll see how Zubats is affected if the situation goes down. But more Roko's alive. Roko's alive and well. Just I'm buying this. Lou is a guy who looks and he talks about 10-game samples. So I think we're going to see this rotation, unless it just goes really badly, and it kind of hasn't. I expect this rotation to kind of stick for a little bit, at least until Paul George gets back.
Yeah, just Reggie's just gonna stay out there.
So my thought process on this is I think Reggie was kind of banged up a little bit before this, and then they played him in a back-to-back set that he looked awful. It was that Denver-Minnesota back-to-back set where they got just wrecked by Denver, and then the next night he came out and looked awful. I'm not sure he's fully healthy. I think it's like a reset, and I'd imagine it's like a week that we see before we see Reggie randomly like re-enter the rotation and then see if he can like retake the job. But he has not looked right. So that's kind of my
no Reggie Jackson, no Lamar Jackson, maybe Isaiah Jackson, Jaren Jackson not on the slate today.
Yeah. And then the last notes before we get out of here, since you're in the Steph Curry jersey, Gallagher, do you want to touch on the Warriors and minutes limits expectations for guys like Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins tonight?
Yeah, so I want to talk about Steph, and I talked about this in the last game, but I thought he'd have a pretty decent minutes limit considering the time off. So shoulder subluxation thing is not like a hamstring pull, not like a quad pull. You don't need a multiple ramp-up step once you're cleared, and we saw him play an 11.5-minute stint. They may have been the full 12 if they were going to keep this game a little bit closer. So this matchup is so freaking good. So I'm expecting his minutes to be pretty full. Fan, are you expecting similar?
Yeah. Well, he played, 11, 12 minutes late?
Yeah, 11.5, yeah.
Yeah. So pretty good tell that he's
2 full practices as well.
Yeah. And it's a shoulder, I mean, it's not something where I'd expect some sort of a sustained minutes cap for him. So I would expect pretty full. I mean, my main concern with this is blowout risk, if anything.
Yeah. Golden State really struggles on the road.
Yeah, that's the thing that keeps it close. But they just got.
Oh, I thought you meant San Antonio blowing out Golden State.
But I mean, this Warriors team just got absolutely embarrassed by.
Oh my God, 3 in a row.
Which one? Detroit, Orlando. Yeah. I mean, like the idea that San Antonio blows them out at home is not that ridiculous.
It really isn't. And say the Alamo Dome too. In front of that record-breaking crowd. And San Antonio has been very Jekyll and Hyde. They look like the worst team in the league, the one that we bet the under on earlier in the season. And then they're hanging with good teams some other games. So both
the Grizzlies games they hung around.
Yeah.
With John there. And my hot stat, I'm obsessed with my Synergy account, and they track points off dribble per possession. Steph's leading the NBA by a lot at almost 1.4 points per possession on off dribble shots against a defense that allows the highest points per possession on off dribble shots. So that matchup, full minutes limit, a lot of scoring, worst defense in the NBA. Steph 40 ball. That's why I'm wearing this. It's going off.
Hopefully for our props. Hopefully for the Warriors. I mean, losing at home to the Pistons, the Magic, and the Suns without everybody, without Ayton, Booker, CP3, Shamet. That is got to be the worst 3-game losing streak relative to expectations of anyone in the league all year. I can't imagine a worse scenario. I'm sure the Wolves have put something out there that would make me second guess this, but God,
that's got to be the worst at home. That's got to be the worst.
It is real bad. After they had won like 5 in a row at home, and then they just close out the homestand with just duds left and right.
Just want to add on Wiggins really quick too. He was getting his legs back according to Kerr, and we saw pretty clear they were capping him. You could see if you're looking at Popcorn Machine, you could see the minute stints getting a little bit longer, and they got to 7 minutes at the end. Pulled him real quick, brought him right back in. So he probably has, I would say, 8-minute cap per stint. So maybe it's a 4-8 situation. So I think he could get in the 30s today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we've covered anything. Fan, did I miss any injury notes that you wanted to tackle on the show?
Let me go through the notes real quick to see. Suggs, Minnesota. Yep, I think we covered everything. Actually, not like a massive injury slate. I'm used to just more. Crazy.
It's not. Yet you gentlemen still found a way to fill an hour. So
that's what we do here.
Always here to get towards that top of the hour. As always, support the people who support us. The show is brought to you by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts running for money, in addition to many formats of NFL contests, like those playoff contests, the gauntlet, the mitten, the contest that I would be drafting right now if it weren't for this show carrying on the last 15 minutes. I'd be hammering out gauntlet drafts. I have 40 more to get done before kickoff tomorrow. Make sure to hop in those contests. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right, myself and Gary Hartman will be behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. Establish the Run. Make sure to join us there as we walk through the 9-game DFS slate. Of course, with flag plants, we'll see the flag plant magic. It's up and down, but last night it was quite magical with Christian Wood and Luka Doncic as the flag plants last night. We'll see if we can match it again tonight. As always, if you're uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we ask for your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. You can also smash that like button and help circulate in the algorithm. As we always say, help feed that algorithm, help us feed our families, and help you feed yourselves with this good injury information to make your DFS picks and your player props each and every weekday night. We will see you again on Tuesday. Important content note, no Monday injury show because NBA basketball will be going on throughout the day on Monday, MLK Day. Lots of early afternoon basketball, no injury show on Monday. So we'll be back on Tuesday, January 17th with myself and Mike Gallagher. Enjoy the good weekend. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Enjoy the basketball. We will see you on Tuesday next week. Take care, everybody.